Hi, I'm Geist, and I'm bringing you another episode of Murder on Green Hill Island. This time it is Chapter 7. Hey Sonic, you're doing great so far, but just out of curiosity, how much longer do you reckon your tale will take? Gold asked as her assistant of the Tenrex rushed over with a small glass of water, expertly not spilling a single drop. Can I have some water too? Sonic asked, his throat parched from all the talking he was doing. Sorry, but I'll need your answer, Gold retorted quickly before gulping down the entire glass of water, handing it back to her nervous assistant, who legged it off set once Gold had finished. I can wrap it up quickly and leave out some important things, but otherwise, I'd say another 10 minutes, Sonic confirmed. Good. That way we can squeeze in 2 more breaks. Gold smiled, turning back to the camera as the stagehand standing behind it began his usual routine of counting down from 5 to 2, signaling the cameras would begin rolling. But Gold, And welcome back to Golden Stories with Gold, the Tenrec began, adopting her bubbly persona once the cameras had begun rolling again. For those of us who are just tuning in, I have Sonic the Hedgehog here with me, and he was telling us about his time stuck on a deserted island with a bloodthirsty killer who used to be one of Sonic's friends. That's right, Gold, Sonic said confidently, sneaking her a dissatisfied glare for the way she refused him the water. So anyway, as I was saying, Scourge had just revealed that he was the one who had sunken the ship. What did you say? Shadow asked, his mouth falling slightly agape. You heard me, Scourge grinned evilly, showing his serrated teeth. Why would you do that? I thought we were actually friends! Shadow pointed an accusing finger at the green hedgehog, his words dripping with anger. Isn't it obvious? I wanted to be the fucking hero for once, Scourge bellowed, his voice filled with malice. Fee thought this was just a trip to rob Cream blind, but it was always so much more than that to me. Every time Eggman attacked, every time some greater evil posed a threat, I always try to save the day, but every fucking time I get rejected. And what's worse, I'm seen as the bad guy by the public. That's because you are the bad guy. You're a crook, a thief, and only in this situation for yourself. Sonic narrowed his eyes in disgust. You never gave me a chance. You always just fought with us whenever we met, so naturally you and your goody-goody band just made me out to be the bad guy without ever giving me one chance. Scourge scolded them. Why would we give you a chance when you constantly tried to hit on me whilst you were with other girls? It was disgusting, Amy moaned, her stomach gurgling just thinking of his deplorable advances. And I did give Fiona a chance, many chances, but I always just ended up getting hurt, even last night. Tails sighed, thinking back to the vixen lying dead on the cold, hard wooden floor of the large mansion. So what? You thought you would kill everybody and then be the hero? How are you going to do that, Frame Fiona? The only other person here who believed in you? Shadow growled, clenching his fist. The toll of both Rouge and Cream's death was weighing on his heart heavily, and the thought that Scourge, somebody who he thought was his friend, killing them almost made him vomit. I told you I didn't kill shit, Scourge shouted again. I sunk the ship that you would all be stranded. Then, after taking some of Cream's winnings, I would reveal that I discovered a boat on the other side of the island and would be the hero who saved us all. Then maybe you all would have given us a real chance. Wait, there's a boat to get off? Mina piped up, looking around at the group. No, there isn't. I did a lap of the island before, and there were definitely no boats. Sonic frowned, furrowing his brow in thought. Well, maybe the real killer sunk it to keep me from escaping. They did a pretty good job in tricking you all into thinking it was me. Look around you. Sonic, Amy, Mina, Tails, or Shadow, I know one of you did this to me, and I swear to Chaos that when I find out who did it, I will kill you myself, Scourge warned, shaking the wooden bars of the cage violently in an attempt to escape, but to no avail. Fiona, Tails, and Scourge did too a fine job in making a sturdy and strong cage. The 5 remaining animals all decided to leave Scourge, having enough of the argument for the time being, and took the time to finally lay all of their insecurities to rest. Now that the killer was behind bars, so to speak, they finally had a moment of peace and time to properly think and mourn all of their friends who had perished. Cream, Knuckles, Sally, Rouge, Silver, Fiona, and Blaze. All of them would be missed. After an hour or so, Amy finally stood up, an idea brimming in her head. Guys, I think I know a way we could be rescued. Let's go diving in the wreck of our cruise ship. It's not far away, and maybe we could get some supplies or something that would allow us to contact the mainland? Amy suggested. Oh, that's a great idea, Ames, Sonic grinned. If we find the ship's portable radio, I might be able to fix it so we could signal any passing ships. Tails chimed in, agreeing to the plan. Anything to get us away from him. Shadow gestured to Scourge, who watched them intently, unblinking, with a scowl on his face. Well, then let's go see what we can find, Amy announced, leading the group towards the shore. The golden sands of the pristine beaches shone brightly, absorbing the heated rays of the midday sun. The serene sound of the crashing water of the curling waves added a peaceful serenity to this paradise of blood. Slowly, the group of 5 began to dress into their swimsuits and scuba gear that they had discovered in the first night staying in the mansion and had retrieved before heading to the dock. After suiting up, they walked to the edge of the dock. We'll all surface and meet up on the dock in, say, half an hour to see what we found? Shadow suggested. The rest nodded in agreement. They all breathed deeply before Mina took the first plunge, falling deep into the aqua-colored water. Next, Shadow and Tails jumped in, each setting off with Mina to swim down to the ship to see what they could find. Sonic, are you okay? Amy asked, placing a hand on his back as the Sapphire Hedgehog took some sporadic breaths, nerves getting the better of him. Yeah, sorry, I'm just not the biggest fan of water. You can do it, Sonic, I believe in you. She smiled at him. We need to do all of this together. Don't let all of our friends' deaths be in vain. They would want us to get home and to see Scourge to justice. You're right, Sonic agreed, taking Amy's hand as he steeled his nerves. She helped him give the push he needed, and together they took the plunge into the deep, watery abyss that was the ocean. Half an hour later, as the sun passed the apex of its trajectory and began to start its descent towards the ever-expansive horizon, the 5 animals resurfaced and swam towards the golden shores. So, did any of you find anything worth something? Mina asked, removing the ugly black diving suit and flicking her hair backwards, allowing the water droplets to explode from her long, luscious purple hair in a display of beauty. Nothing here, Amy frowned as she shook her short pink hair as well. I checked the captain's area, but apart from his dead body, I didn't find anything. It looked like the communications were too far destroyed to be usable. Tails frowned. Add another person to the list of people Scourge has killed senselessly, Shadow remarked bitterly, folding his arms over one another. Nothing here either, Sonic added, patting down his suit to show he wasn't hiding anything. Well, nothing except this. Sonic held out a small plastic cylinder with the cap placed on the top. He heaved the cap open, tipping the canister over, and a small, old map fell out. A map? Mina questioned, looking over the parchment. It looks like a map of the mansion. One you'd hand out at an open house for potential buyers or something? Tails scratched his head, confused why it would have been on the ship. Yeah, I found it in Cream's cabin. She must have been given it when she rented out the island. It would make sense, seeing as the place is huge. Sonic shrugged. Hang on, what's that? Shadow pointed towards a small extended room near the side of the mansion. Boat shed? Hang on, boat shed! Mina squealed with delight. How did we miss that when looking around? Tails asked aloud to nobody in particular. Yeah, seems rather convenient that we all missed it, Amy agreed, laughing to herself. They all breathed a relieved sigh, marveling at their good fortune. I bet they have a small motorboat, or some kind that we could use to get off this stinking island. Shadow spoke plainly. What are we waiting for? Let's go find it, Sonic cheered, rolling up the map as he raced off towards their campsite, followed closely by the others. Smiles were plastered on all of their faces as optimism and hope that had been zapped away from them over the past day was returned with an overbearing force. However, it didn't last very long. Oh no, Sonic said with dread in his voice. The others caught up towards him in seconds later, gasping when their eyes laid beyond their campsite. There, in the area where they had left Scourge, was an empty cage lying on its side. He escaped? Amy shrieked. That can't be. I constructed that cage myself. There's no way he could have escaped. Tails furrowed his brow, walking around the cage to inspect how Scourge could have possibly made his escape. That doesn't matter right now. Scourge is out there somewhere, Shadow remarked. We need to go now, Mina added, gesturing towards the mansion. They're right, little buddy. We can think about how later. The important thing is that we get to that boat and get out of here now before he finds us. Sonic spoke swiftly. He turned along with the others and began taking the well-traveled winding path up towards the mansion. After a moment, the four disappeared from view, but Sonic turned to look over his shoulder, noticing the little Kitsune wasn't trailing behind him. You guys go ahead. We'll catch up at the shed," Sonic motioned before sprinting back over to Tails, who was squatting next to the cage, inspecting the door on the vine-fashioned hinges. "He just couldn't have," Tails mumbled to himself. "Tails, come on, I can't leave you here alone," Sonic sighed, grabbing Tails' arm. "You know me better than anybody, Sonic. You know I can't just leave without figuring this out. If I was the one who built this too shabby, then I'll feel responsible if anybody else gets hurt. You're the one who's going to get hurt if you stay here by yourself. Scourge would be an idiot if you came back here. This would be the last place he would think to come," Tails asserted himself, confirming his ideas with words. "Yeah, but what if he does?" Sonic was still unsure. "If he comes back, I can take care of myself." Tails placed a gloved hand to his chest. "Well, I know I can't fly, but I can get a little bit of height with these things." He twirled his tails to show Sonic what he meant. "I'll just soar up and perch in one of the treetops. He won't be able to get me." Okay," Sonic sighed, "but come to the shed in 10 minutes. If I don't see you in that shed in 10 minutes, I'm gonna come back out here and get you." Sonic's emerald eyes met the azure pools and Tails, showing that he was serious. "Okay, 10 minutes. Promise?" "Pinky promise," Tails nodded, holding out his pinky. Sonic wrapped his around Tails to submit the promise before speeding off down the road to catch up with the others who were nearing the mansion. Now, how did he escape this cage? Hang on, what's this? Tails noticed a small drop of blood on one of the wooden bars of the cage. He grabbed the side and pushed over with all of his might, grunting with intense effort it took as it rolled the cage over. There, staining the grass, was even more blood. "It can't be," Tails said aloud, putting the pieces together in his brilliant brain. He scanned the field, noticing something out of the corner of his eyes. He rushed over to a bush lying adjacent to the heavy line of trees that acted as the barrier between the field and forest. Tails bent down and wiped his finger across the leaves of the bush, smelling it to just be sure that there wasn't just squashed raspberries staining the leaves. "This is definitely blood, but that would mean..." Tails brushed the leaves aside. They parted willing, with his force to reveal a shoe, then a foot, then a body, and finally an entire green-furred hedgehog. Tails gasped at the sight of his throat. A wide, deep gash was present across his throat, slicing over his Adam's apple. Dried, scabby blood trickled down his neck, staining the white shirt and black leather jacket that he wore over his torso. Tails turned his head, vomiting into the bush at the horrid sight and putrid smell of the hedgehog. Tails scanned the body. That's when he noticed it. A tiny, minuscule detail, but a detail nonetheless. Tails grabbed Scourge's wrist and lifted it up, looking at his fingernails. There was something caught beneath the sharp nails. Something obvious. Almost like... Oh my chaos! It can't be! Tails fell back in shock as all of the details began swirling around in his head as his brain began to comprehend what it meant. The moral of the little things that had gone unnoticed made more and more sense. Each new connection he made was like an individual piece of an expansive puzzle that was being finished inside his head. The final clue was the centerpiece, connecting all others and revealing the picture of the cynical, murderous killer that had plagued his group of friends since the very beginning. There, hidden underneath Scourge's fingernails, obviously caught when the hedgehog scratched his assailant in a defensive attempt at survival, was a small tuft of hair with a very distinctive and familiar color. Wait, that would mean... the killer's with all of them in the shed! Tails cried out loud. "I've got to save them!" He screamed and jumped up and sprinted off towards the path, mansion, shed, and killer inside with the rest of his surviving friends. Wait, so what color was the hair? Gold practically shouted, her butt on the edge of her seat as she leaned towards the sapphire hedgehog. Black, pink, purple, blue? Gold narrowed her eyes as she looked at Sonic. Well, if you stop interrupting me and let me get a word in, maybe I'll be able to answer your question. Sonic laughed, enjoying Gold's squirming for answers. For once, she wasn't belittling him or just using him. Wait, don't tell us yet. Let's cut to another commercial break, Gold beamed, turning to the camera. Sonic smirked, instantly dropped to a frown. Nope, I'm still not as important as her precious audience, he thought, folding his arms as he watched her address the camera. Who was the killer? Mina? Amy? Shadow? Was it even Sonic himself? Stay tuned after these commercial breaks. She smiled as the little red light dimmed before switching off temporarily. Gold quickly turned to Sonic. So, who was the killer? Camera's off, so you don't need to keep the suspense going. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you, Sonic smirked, reveling in Gold's dissatisfied frown. You'll just have to wait until that little red light comes back on. Ugh, you're no fun, Gold sulked. No spoilers, he laughed, enjoying tormenting the Golden Tenric a little too much. Alright guys, thank you for watching and listening to this newest episode of Murder on Green Hill Island, Chapter 7. We will be back next time with Chapter 8. After that, there's 9, and then that's it. That'll be it. We're very close to ending it off here. So thank y'all again for joining me, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!